I don't often write English albums. As an Afrikaans boykie from Pretoria, I need very strong motivation. And that motivation is that Hetty and I are busy with a number of international ministry engagements under the header Hope for Every Home. The music I wrote is a soundtrack for the various ministry themes that God is leading us to expose and bring under the attention of Christians and the local church worldwide in this very specific season that we are in. It resulted in an album called There's Hope in Me. I chose this title because hope is such an important driving force and such an important part of the witness of any Christian out there. The problem is that we're always hoping for something to change, for a better future, for circumstances to start just being different. But that's hoping for something, and that's connected to circumstance. God is trying to teach us that the hope is inside of us. It's not a fruit of the Holy Spirit, it's not a gift of the Spirit, but the Apostle Paul in Romans 5 tells us very specifically how God grows hope on the inside. He says, I glory in my sufferings because suffering breeds perseverance, and perseverance leads to a faith more firm and pure, and that faith leads to a hope. And that hope will never be put to shame because of the love of Christ just poured into our hearts through the fullness of the Holy Spirit. That's the hope that lives on the inside of every single Christian, and that becomes the biggest spiritual muscle. You know, when I'm in a gymnasium, I'm not really going anywhere, but all the time that I'm in there, I'm growing muscle. Just like that, on the inside of my spirit, God is growing a spiritual muscle, and that muscle is called hope.
You were building hope in me.
I use several songs on the album to focus on the fact that we are so inadequate just as humans and even as Christians to ace life on our own. We're not supposed to. We're supposed to only be able to do it in the strength and under the blanket of the grace of Christ. In our family, we like to use the word unnatural because people so easily say, I'm natural at being married, I'm natural at parenting, I'm natural at just being a good person and doing things right. Well, we're unnatural at most of those things. We're really only natural at sinning and falling over and being clumsy at life in general. But in our unnatural state, we find that our supernatural God meets us with faith and hope and courage and just grace to cover all our mistakes. We are so grateful after many years of Christianity and of a walk with God that we're still able to say God's grace is enough. His wisdom, His love, His strength encompasses everything. And for every area of our lives that we are so unnatural, this God of the unnatural with His supernatural love and grace is enough for us. And that's what this prayer, O God of the unnatural, is all about.
Oh God of the unnatural, of sinners all made new, Creator, friend of the family.
It was important to me as I wrote this album that I'd get the definitions right. We like to redefine words like love and grace and hope to fit into a framework that makes sense to us. And in that sense, we kind of lose a lot of the spiritual depth that God meant when He designed and invented those words, because He did. They are from the Bible. When I take a song like On the Mountain, it's a metaphor for grace. It's just life is like a mountain or a series of massive mountains that we climb. And every one of those just looks impossible to us. And every time we summit, very quickly we forget that we only got through the strength of God and by His grace. And On the Mountain wants to focus on that and on God's definition for the word grace. In the song Love, it's very important for me that, a word that we throw around very easily gets the kind of meaning that God would have when He says, love your enemies. And that's why in the chorus I wrote the line, I'd hate if I could help it, I'd struggle to forgive, but love is here and I can live. And what I want to say through that is, it's only through the love of God on the inside of me that I actually can live. Otherwise, I would be a slave. I would be a slave of unforgiveness and shame and so many things that I can only conquer through the love of Jesus Christ that He showed for me on the cross and that is alive today on the inside of every single Christian.
It's stronger than the mountains, it's deeper than the sea. God's holiness in me. I'd hate if I could help it. I'd struggle to forgive, but love is here and I can live.
I hope you love that song. It was a hard one to write because it's about a difficult theme. We believe in family. Not because we are particularly great at being a family, we're very ordinary people and we're a very ordinary family, but because we have learned to understand that God uses families to build the fabric of society. If we're strong at home as Christians, then it's as if God can do anything in the next generation. A number of the songs on the album want to encourage families to grow together in their walk with God. In a song called A House That Is a Home, I look into the story of a couple and I imagine them at the brink of divorce, and I plead with them to remember just in time that there's peace for a heart that rests from roaming, and there's a quiet resting place for a house that is a home. It's so important that what God has brought together, that will not allow life to just simply pull apart, that we value marriage and family the way God does. In one of my favorite songs on the album, because it's a up-tempo acoustic thumper, it's called We Will Serve the Lord, and in that one I give families out there the opportunity to commit with my family that we will serve the Lord together. It's a fun song to listen to in the car on your way to work because it's such a happy one, but make no mistake, there's a serious commitment in there when at the end of the bridge we say, we can't speak for all the world, but this house will worship and adore. I hope that every single Christian family in South Africa will stand firm in that commitment to God, to serve Him with everything that they have together.
Bless this house, oh Lord, we pray. Make it safe by night and day. And when the evil comes inside, show us where to rest and hide in the twilight of our time, so much darker than...
I hope you enjoy that song. It was certainly fun to write. You know, the up-tempo songs always make it onto the radio and they kind of become the hits. But when you're in a place of brokenness, when life is very hard, those are not the ones that help you the most. And that's why God leads us, I think, to write the slow ones, the quiet songs, the ones where the Holy Spirit really ministers healing and comfort to your soul. And I pray that that will be the case for people when they listen to You Make Me Lie Down and Be Still My Heart on this album, that the people will be overwhelmed by a sense of the presence of God, and where Jesus is more present than the very shadow of death, the way David wrote in Psalm 23 that You Make Me Lie Down is based on. When God is that present, then healing is always right at hand. And I pray that people will experience that when they listen to these songs. May God even anoint them, that people are healed as they listen. That would certainly be my prayer. I pray that this whole album will become a soundtrack of encouragement to people on their journey, that they will experience that there really is hope, not just for us, but a deep resource on the inside of them. And I pray that they'll experience as they listen that God is growing it, no matter what season of life we are going through. The album was masterfully produced by Gideon Boertes and Yati de Beer, both SAMA winners, and it's full of organic acoustic elements like banjos and mandolins. There's a lot of groove as well, because I can't live without groove and I need a lot of it, and I believe that joy has got a soundtrack, and that soundtrack is a rhythm. But it's alternated with a rich, warm timbre of violins and cellos. Nothing reminds me more of the love that God has for me than the warmth of a cello, and I hope my listeners will agree. I pray that this album, There's Hope in Me, will become a source of joy and courage and wisdom and strength, and definitely hope for everyone who listens. We're in a very specific season in our country. Hope is not just there for us to have an inner resource of strength in this time. It certainly is. But it has also become an ingredient of our Christian witness to a hopeless, despondent world, the one that we live in right now.